Rama Hare Rama Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopī Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopī Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajapacharya Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajapacharya Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Nu Govardhan Dham Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 5, The Creative Impetus, Chapter 18, The Residents of Jambudvip Offer Prayers, Text 23. Sa Tvam Mamapi Achuta Shirshni Vanditam Karambujam Yat Twad Adai Satvatam Bibarshi Mam Lakshma Varinya Maya Ka Ishvarasye Hitam Uhitam Vibur iti satvam mamap yuchit satvam mamap yuchuta shirshni vanditam karambujam yat twadadayi sattvatam Bibarshi mam lakshma varinya mayaya ka ishvare setam uhitam viboriti satam mamap yuchuta shirshni vanditam karambujam yat twadadaya sattvatam Bibarshi mam lakshma varinya mayaya ka ishvaris yitam uhitam viboriti satvam mamap chuta shirshni vanditam karambujam yat twadadaya sattvatam Bibarshi mam lakshma varinya mayaya ka ishvaris yehitam uhitam viboriti Word. Saha, that. Tvam, you. Mama, of me. Api, also. Achuta, oh, infallible. One. Shirshni, on the head. Vanditam, worshipped. Kada bhujam, your lotus hand. Yat, which. Twat, by you. Adayi, placed. Sattvatam, on the head of the devotees. Bibarshi, you maintain. Mam, me. Lakshma, as an insignia on your chest. Varinya, O worshipful one. Maya, with deceit. Kaha, who? Ishvarasya, of the supremely powerful controller. Ihitam, the desires. Uhitam, to understand by reason and argument. Vibhuhu, is able. Iti, thus. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. O Infallible One, your lotus palm is the source of all benediction. Therefore, your pure devotees worship it, and you very mercifully place your hand on their heads. I wish that you may also place your hand on my head, for although you already bear my insignia of golden streaks on your chest, I regard this honor as merely a kind of false prestige for me. You show your real mercy to your devotees, not to me. Of course, you are the Supreme Absolute Controller, and no one can understand your motives. Purport. In many places, the śāstras describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead as being more inclined toward his devotees than toward his wife, who always remains on his chest. In Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 11:14-15, it is stated, tathā me priyatama ātma-yonir na śaṅkaraḥ na ca saṅkarṣaṇo na śrīr nemam cha yathā bhavān. Here Krishna plainly says that his devotees are more dear to him than Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Saṅkarṣaṇa, the original cause of creation, the goddess of fortune, or even his own self. Elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9.20, Śukadeva Gosvāmī says, nemam viriñco na bhavo na śrīr aṅga saṁśrayā prasādaṁ lebhire gopī yathā prāpa vimuktidāt. The Supreme Lord, who can award liberation to anyone, showed more mercy toward the Gopis than to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or even the goddess of fortune, who is his own wife and is associated with his body. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.47-60 also states, Nayam Shiyonga I don't think that's the right one, huh? Nayam Shiyonga Nitanta Rete Prasada Swayoshitam Nalina Ganda Rucham Kutonya Raso Savesya Bujadanda Grihita Kanta Labdashi Shamya Udagad Rajasundarinam. The Gopis received benedictions from the Lord that neither Lakshmi Devi or the most beautiful dancers in the heavenly planets could attain. In the Rasa dance, the Lord showed his favor to the most fortunate Gopis by placing his arms on their shoulders and dancing with each of them individually. No one can compare with the Gopis who received the causeless mercy of the Lord. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that no one can receive the real favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead without following in the footsteps of the Gopis. Even the goddess of fortune could not receive the same favor as the Gopis, although she underwent severe austerities and penances for many years. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discusses this point with Venkatabhatta in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, Chapter 9, texts 101 through 131. So, here it is. The Lord inquired from Venkatabhatta, your worshipful goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, always remains on the chest of Narayan, and she is certainly the most chaste woman in the creation. However, my Lord is Lord Sri Krishna, a cowherd boy engaged in tending cows. Why is it that Lakshmi, being such a chaste wife, wants to associate with my Lord? Just to associate with Krishna, Lakshmi abandoned all transcendental happiness in Vaikuntha and for a long time accepted vows and regulative principles and performed unlimited austerities. Venkatabhatta replied, Lord Krishna and Lord Narayan are one and the same, but the pastimes of Krishna are more relishable due to their sportive nature. They are very pleasing for Krishna's shaktis. Since Krishna and Narayan are both the same personality, Lakshmi's association with Krishna did not break her vow of chastity. Rather, it was in great fun that the goddess of fortune wanted to associate with Lord Krishna. The goddess of fortune considered that her vow of chastity would not be damaged by her relationship with Krishna. Rather, by associating with Krishna, she could enjoy the benefit of the rasa dance. If she wanted to enjoy herself with Krishna, what fault is there? Why are you joking so about this? Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I know that there is no fault in the goddess of fortune, but still she could not enter into the rasa dance. We hear this from revealed scriptures. The authorities of Vedic knowledge met Lord Ramchandra and Dandakaranya by their penances and austerities. They were allowed to enter into the rasa dance. But can you tell me why the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, could not get that opportunity? To this, Venkatabhatta replied, I cannot enter into the mystery of this incident. I am an ordinary living being, my intelligence is limited, and I am always disturbed. How can I understand the pastimes of the Supreme Lord? They are deeper than millions of oceans. Lord Chaitanya replied, Lord Krishna has a specific characteristic. He attracts everyone's heart by the mellow of his personal conjugal love. By following in the footsteps of the inhabitants of the planet known as Vrajloka or Goloka Vrindavan, one can attain the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. However, the inhabitants of that planet do not know that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unaware that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, the residents of Vrindavan, like Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda Devi, and the Gopis, treat Krishna as their beloved son or lover. Mother Yashoda accepts him as her son and sometimes binds him to a grinding mortar. Krishna's cowherd boyfriends think he is an ordinary boy and get up on his shoulders. In Goloka Vrindavan, no one has any desire other than to love Krishna. The conclusion is that one cannot associate with Krishna unless he has fully received the favor of the inhabitants of Vrajbhumi. Therefore, if one wants to be delivered by Krishna directly, he must take to the service of the residents of Vrindavan, who are unalloyed devotees of the Lord. Om Gani Devadandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulan Meditamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karidivachalam Pangam Langa Tegadim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurandinitaranam Vancha Kalpadrubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Parvanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Translation again. O infallible one, your lotus palm is the source of all benediction. Therefore your pure devotees worship it, and you very mercifully place your hand on their heads. I wish that you may also place your hand on my head. For although you already bear my insignia of golden streaks in your chest, I regard this honor as merely a kind of false prestige for me. You show your real mercy to your devotees, not to me. Of course, you are the Supreme Absolute Controller, and no one can understand your motives. This is Lakshmi Devi offering her prayers. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is spending a considerable amount of time discussing, quoting some verses from the Bhagavatam where Krishna is saying that his devotees, his pure devotees, are more dear than Brahma, Lord Shiva, Saṅkarṣaṇa, the goddess of fortune, even his own self. And how the Krishna can award liberation to anyone, but he showed special mercy to the Gopis, the mercy that couldn't be obtained by Lord Brahma, Shiva, or the goddess of fortune, who is the wife of, and who's closely associated with Narayan. The Gopis' benediction from the Lord that Lakshmi Devi couldn't have. It says the most beautiful dancers in the heavenly planets could attain. The special mercy of Krishna dancing with the Gopis in the rasa dance. This causeless mercy of Krishna. And then in this particular section of the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Prabhupada's quoting, it's Madhya Lila chapter 9, starting at 111. It's that whole discussion between Venkatabhatta and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's he's making serious, you could say, philosophical points, and also serious Krishna conscious points. But he's also joking a little bit with Venkatapati about this, how your Lakshmi Devi couldn't enter the rasa dance. And why did she want to enter the rasa dance? And so on. So later in the conversation between both of them, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Venkatapati, in text 144, or text 141, so I'll just read a few verses to continue the conversation. The Lord then continued, "My dear Venkatapati, please do not continue doubting. Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this is the conclusion of the Vedic literatures. Lord Narayan, the opulent form of Krishna, attracts the minds of the goddess of fortune and her followers. All these incarnations of Godhead are either plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions of the Purusha avatars, but Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. In every age, he protects the world through his different features when the world is disturbed by the enemies of Indra. Because Krishna has 4 extraordinary qualities not possessed by Lord Narayan, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, always desires his company." So, in the Nectar Devotion, Srila Prabhupada's summary study of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there are 64 qualities of Krishna mentioned there. And it's very beautiful what Rupa Goswami did. He listed these qualities, and then he not just listed them, but he wrote, or he collected different pastimes, different, you could say, forms of evidence from the Vedic literature, how Krishna displays these qualities. So it's not just someone says, "Oh, you're so great, and you're so tolerant, and you're so merciful," or whatever, but then they don't explain how. But Rupa Goswami did that. He explained how, or the particular circumstances or examples. I remember, I think Satsrup Das Goswami, he wrote a book. He wrote many books. He's probably writing a book right now as we speak. He's quite a writer. Keeps on writing. Shiva Ramaswamy is probably also writing as we speak, but Satsrup Das Goswami, he wrote a book about Srila Prabhupada, many books about Prabhupada, but one, the 26 qualities of a pure devotee, I think he entitled it, and it's the 26 qualities of a pure devotee, one by one, which are found in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he wrote how Srila Prabhupada demonstrated these qualities. So, just as Rupa Goswami wrote how Krishna demonstrated these qualities. So the last 4 are unique to Krishna, and others do not have these 4, such as Lord Shiva or Narayan or any of the different great personalities. So the first one is performer, as it's stated here in the Nectar Devotion. In this particular, this is chapter, let's see, starting in chapter 21. And then this is chapter 22 that we're reading from. Qualities of Sri Krishna further explained. So one of them is, the first, he performs wonderful activities. And performer of wonderful activities. And Krishna himself says, in the Brihad Vamana Purana, he says, "Although I have many fascinating pastimes, whenever I think of the Rasa Leela which I perform with the Gopis, I became eager to have it again." And then, in relation to what's been stated today, one devotee has said, "I know about Narayan, the husband of the goddess of fortune, and I also know about many other incarnations of the Lord. Certainly all the pastimes of such incarnations are exciting to my mind, but still the pastimes of the Rasa Leela performed by Krishna himself, Lord Krishna, are wonderfully increasing my transcendental pleasure." So this is the one example of Krishna's wonderful activities, the Rasa Lila, which he doesn't have in other. Of course, Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, but as Narayan and other forms, he doesn't have this. Also, he doesn't have, as Vishnu, he doesn't have childhood pastimes. We have the childhood pastimes of Krishna, in which Mother Yashoda is binding Lord Krishna, and so on, so many different pastimes. Also Shiva, he doesn't have childhood pastimes that we know of so much, although maybe we do know. Afterwards we could discuss that. But we have Mani Bandhani, he has a cell phone, and somehow or other he has a sticker of baby Shiva on it. I don't know where that came from, but anyways. Not bona fide, that's what Dravida people are saying. So the next one, Krishna is surrounded by loving devotees. So the Dravida people, do you think you could speak into the mic? What is it? Prema Mandali something?
Kalolaba Atulya Murara Prema Mandita Priya Mandala.
Yeah.
That's the quality.
They're surrounded by the devotees in the highest level.
Yeah, referring to the gopis.
Referring to the gopis. So, Srila Prabhupada explains, when we speak of Krishna, we do not speak of Krishna. Krishna is not alone. Krishna means his name, qualities, fame, friends, paraphernalia, entourage, all these are included. And then he mentions a king. When we mention a king, he doesn't just come alone, comes with the entourage. So Krishna is not impersonal. He's surrounded by loving devotees, Mother Yashoda, the Gopis, Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd boys, all of these different devotees. And then there's a wonderful verse from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 31st chapter, verse 15, 10th canto, 10:31:15. The gopis are lamenting.
Atidiyad bhavanan nikananam chitiyugayatam tvamapashyatam kutalakundalam shimukam chite jada udikshitam pakshakurdasham.
Oops, okay. You don't have a poem for that one, huh? No, not yet. Okay. My dear Krishna, during the daytime when you go out into the forest of Vrindavan with your cows, we consider one moment to be 12 years. It's very difficult for us to pass the time. And again, when you come back at the end of the day by seeing your beautiful face, we are so much attracted that we are unable to stop looking upon you constantly. At these times when there is occasional blinking of our eyelids, which isn't very long, right? How long? We condemn the Creator, Lord Brahma, as a dunce, because he does not know how to make perfect eyes. In other words, the gopis were disturbed by the blinking of their eyes, because for the moment that their eyes were closed, they could not see Krishna. This means that the gopis' love for Krishna was so great and ecstatic that they were disturbed by even momentary absence. And when they saw Krishna, they were also disturbed. This is a paradox. And then Srila Prabhupada explains that, again, about the Rasa Lila, dancing, the gopis dancing with Krishna. He says that, or they say the gopis are saying that it seems so short. When we meet you at night, we consider the duration of night to be very small. And why speak of only this night, even if we had a night of Brahma? And how long is the night of Brahma? Long time. We would consider it a very short time. So they have that, I don't know where that saying, anyways, we have to say that saying, you know what I'm talking about. Time passes fast when. So yeah, this is another, he is surrounded by these pure devotees who are completely absorbed in him, to the point that, yeah, they don't even want their right. They do not want to not see Krishna even just for whatever, however long split second. So, and then the 63rd is Krishna's attractive flute. So Krishna has different types of flutes.
Trijagan. Trijagan manakashaki mulali kalakujita.
All right, thank you. The Gopis tell Mother Yashoda, when your son plays on his flute, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Indra, although they are supposed to be great learned scholars and personalities, all become bewildered. Although they are all very great personalities, by hearing the sound of Krishna's flute, they humbly bow down and become grave from studying the sound vibrated. Here's from Rupa Goswami's, one of his books, Vidagdhamadhava. The sound vibration created by the flute of Krishna wonderfully stopped Lord Shiva from playing his dindima drum. So he's playing his drum, and then he heard the flute and he stopped. And the same flute has caused great sages like the four Kumars to become disturbed in their meditation. It has caused Lord Brahma, who was sitting on the lotus flower for the creative function, to become astonished, and Anantadev, who was calmly holding all the planets on his hoods, was moving in this way and that due to the transcendental vibration from Krishna's flute, which penetrated through the covering of the universe and reached to the spiritual sky. I remember, Javita Prabhu, there was a shloka you chanted at one point, and it's explaining how Krishna plays the flute, and then Brahma, he's up on his swan carrier, and then he starts rolling in ecstasy, something like that. Yeah. And the cloud, there's a movement of the cloud, and this. You remember this? Okay. All right. So Krishna's playing his flute, and Brahma's there in his swan carrier, and then he hears it, and he starts, rolling in ecstasy on his swan carrier, and of course, there's the different descriptions of the Yamuna River, which is usually Yamuna River flowing, so it freezes, and then the trees start sapping in ecstasy, and the stones start melting in ecstasy, and so on. It's different. So Krishna plays his attractive flute. And the last one is says Krishna's exquisite beauty. So Krishna means one who's all attractive. Which is, we see that throughout the world, and the distribution of Krishna consciousness that has gone on throughout the world. In America, South America, whatever, all the continents going on, practically. You see that everybody's, of course not everybody, but a number of people become attracted to the Hare Krishna mantra, to Krishna consciousness, to Krishna. Quite amazing, actually. So one thing that's brought up here is that this is mentioned in Rupa Goswami's Lalita Madhava. One day Krishna happened to see the shadow of his beautiful form reflected on a jeweled foreground. Upon seeing this bodily reflection, he expressed his feelings. How wonderful it is that I have never seen such a beautiful form. Although it is my own form, still, like Srimati Radharani, I am trying to embrace this form and enjoy celestial bliss. This statement shows how Krishna and his shadow reflection are one and the same. There is no difference between Krishna and his shadow reflection, nor between Krishna and his picture. This is the transcendental position of Krishna. And Prabhupada mentions how generally, people wear ornaments to make themselves or their appearance more attractive, right? And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would advise his devotees just, simple. And especially for, brahmachari sannyasis and such personalities like that, simple. Because, we're not trying to decorate, right? So, anyways, but in Krishna's case, it says that it's not that the ornaments beautify him, he beautifies the ornaments. So that's separate, so makes them more attractive. So these are the four qualities that perform a wonderful activities. Krishna is surrounded by 11 devotees. Krishna's attractive flute. Krishna's exquisite beauty.
I found the swan verse if you want.
Yes.
Ashtabir Shutiputakaina Bhavaina Vakakalinkalayan Shatadidabhajita Mukto Malara Prishte Muhur Lutati. Lord Brahma is the gravest soul, supremely self-controlled, an ocean of composure. He's a wonder to behold. But when he hears Govinda's flute produce its maddening sound, he loses it, and on his swan he starts to roll around.
Yes, that's the one. Thank you. Thank you. You found it. Great. So it says that Krishna has these four extraordinary qualities, not possessed by Lord Narayan, the goddess of, because he has these qualities. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, always desires his company. So then there's explanation that, okay, well, they're one and the same, Narayan, from a particular perspective. And then mentioned here, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, attracts the minds of the goddess of fortune. So Krishna is attracting the goddess of fortune, but Lord Narayan cannot attract the minds of the gopis. This proves the super excellence of Krishna. To say nothing of Lord Narayan personally, Lord Krishna himself appeared as Narayan just to play a joke on the gopis. So Krishna, he appeared as Narayan to play a joke on the gopis, right? Although Krishna assumed the four-armed form of Narayan, he could not attract the serious attention of the gopis in ecstatic love. Once Lord Sri Krishna playfully manifested himself as Narayan with four victorious hands in a very beautiful form. When the gopis saw this exalted form, however, their ecstatic feelings were crippled. A learned scholar therefore cannot understand that gopis' ecstatic feelings, which are firmly fixed upon the original form of Lord Krishna as the son of Nanda Maharaj. The wonderful feelings of the gopis in ecstatic paramaras with Krishna constitute the greatest mystery in spiritual life. So, in different... anyway, so yeah, the gopis were one day, and Krishna disguised himself as Narayan, and then the gopis, they kept on going. Asked, do you know where Krishna is? They kept on going, and then I heard from my spiritual master that Krishna when Srimati Radharani came and Krishna was disguised as Lord Narayan, he couldn't disguise himself anymore, and he went to the two-armed form. So then Lord Chaitanya, in this way Chaitanya Mahaprabhu deflated the pride of Venkadabhatta, but just to make him happy again, he spoke as follows. He says there's no difference between Lord Narayan and Krishna, so on. And he says that he appears in different forms just to satisfy his different devotees. When the jewel known as the Vaidurya touches various other materials, it appears to be separated to different colors, and consequently the forms also appear different. Similarly, according to the meditational ecstasy of the devotee, the Lord, who is known as Achyuta, Prabhupada says, infallible, he cannot fall, appears in different forms, although he is essentially one. So yeah, we should become more and more attracted to Krishna. And there's one story I heard from this, this Prabhupada disciple recently. He wrote a book. It's called The Guru and Disciple book. It's Kripamoy Prabhu from London. anyways, he wrote this story in this book, in the particular book. He said that there was once a man, and he became lost in the forest, and he happened to find this other man, and this other man's business was, what he would do for work is he would collect twigs, and he would burn them to a degree, and he would make like charcoal, and this charcoal was very good for cooking. So anyways, this particular charcoal maker ran into this man who was lost in the forest, and the man who was lost in the forest was very hungry and tired and thirsty, etc. So the charcoal maker said, "Okay, please stay with us for the night. Stay with myself and my wife." And they fed him nice prasādaṁ and gave him nice something to drink, and then he rested there for the night. And then the next morning, the man who stayed the night asked the charcoal maker, "Can you direct me? Can you walk with me to the edge of the forest?" So the charcoal maker said, "Sure." So he accompanied him to the edge of the forest. And then this man who was lost, he said, "My dear charcoal maker, you didn't recognize me, but I'm actually the king of this province. I'm the king. So I'd like to reward you because you were so nice and so such a great host. Despite you didn't know my position, but still you hosted me very nicely. So I'd like to give you a reward." So he said, "Please walk with me for a mile." So they walked, and then the king pointed to this land, some acres of land, and he said, "You see here, these are very valuable sandalwood trees, 50 of them, and I'm giving them to you, so please take them." So then the charcoal maker said, "Thank you very much," and then they went their separate ways. And then about a year later, the king wanted to go see how the charcoal maker was doing, and so then they ran into each other, and they went to that particular place where there was these 50 sandalwood trees, and to his surprise, they were all gone. They were all gone. And then the king asked the charcoal maker, "What happened to the trees?" And the charcoal maker said, "Well, I made them into charcoal." And then the king said, "Oh, really? Because I guess you didn't know, but one of a twig from one of those trees, you could get way more money just by having one twig. It equals up to about 100 bags of charcoal. And what to speak of the fragrance in that tree? They make soap, sandalwood perfume, all these different things. And then the charcoal maker said, "Well, what can I do? I'm just a simple charcoal maker. I didn't know." Yeah. So, and then what's the moral of the story? Well, the moral of the story is that what is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is that there's value to the body. Of course, there's value to the body. The human form of life could help us in self-realization, but the moral is that people, they expend all the energy of the body, means they burn up all the energy of the body. And unnecessary engagement means non-Krishna consciousness. They just burn it up. And then what do they get at the end? Or what do they get throughout? Nothing, really. Nothing of any substance, of any value. Whereas they could have, cashed in, or they could have actually got something very sweet, just as this charcoal maker could have got this sweet fragrance, but he just burned it up, right? Or you could say people, they accumulate a lot of money or whatever, or fame or whatever, And practically they just burn it up on just uselessness, useless engagements. So the idea is that we want to capitalize, or we want to use our body, our mind, for the best purposes, which is Krishna consciousness. But the problem is, is that we have to have realization of that. And it's not necessarily the problem, but it's a challenge. Because we could say that, okay, yes, God realization, self-realization, but we have to have realization ourselves, at least some preliminary realization, or preliminary taste. Because, as Srila Prabhupada said, you put a dog on a throne, right? And it may look very nice, right? The garland, his crown, and his tail wagging on the seat or something. Oh, so cute, especially in America, right? The land of cow, dog protection, whatever. But India's land of cow protection, at least it used to be. But of course, it's still going on, but to lesser degrees. But as soon as you throw a bone, what does it do? What does the dog? Jumps. So he can't help himself. That's just his attraction. He can't help himself. He's helpless, right? Bound. Or a hog, right? Eats all types of abominable things. Just can't help himself. He actually likes it. Like Angira Muni cursed Indra one time. I was just reading in the first canto, Srila Prabhupada explains. Angira, I believe it's Angira Muni, he cursed Lord Brahma, or excuse me, Lord Indra to become a hog. And there's this whole thing, oh, come back to your heavenly... No, I'm experiencing, whatever, jokes sometimes, right? Hog heaven, I don't want to go, right? Of course, eventually it makes it back, but the thing is, people become conditioned, they just can't help themselves. They're attracted to what they're attracted to, which is not Krishna. And that's the problem. So yeah, it's a challenge for us, is that we may philosophically or intellectually understand the importance of Krishna consciousness, and hopefully we do, to a degree. We need to convince ourselves, or we need to lend our ears to become convinced of the importance of Krishna consciousness. And then, becoming convinced, we have to become more and more realized. Means ultimately experiencing a higher taste, because after all, we become conditioned, we become attracted to certain things. And even if we know the value of Krishna consciousness theoretically or philosophically, intellectually, what can we do? We're helplessly attracted to what we're attracted to, and it may not be Krishna. So that's the challenge for us to develop, for us to reawaken our natural attraction for Krishna. And it is natural. But in an unnatural state, or we say in an unhealthy state, it seems not natural. It seems very natural to be attracted to non-Krishna, right? Maya. In so many different forms. And Maya just doesn't mean, for a man it means a woman, or for a woman it means a man. I mean, Maya, there's so many forms of Maya. I mean, give me a break. Maya could mean so many things for so different people, right? Maya means different things for different people. Like for somebody who has managed to conquer their lust and anger and greed and all that, and they may, whatever, maybe Maya is some other subtle things, right? They may have conquered their lust, but they haven't conquered the desire for, huge numbers of followers or something. That's their Maya. So there's different types of Maya. So that's a challenge to become free and become attracted to Krishna. And if we lend our ear, and if we open our mind up to the messages of Krishna, to the holy name, the transcendental sound vibrations, then we will become attracted. We have to become attracted. We will become attracted. And that will develop. That will intensify more and more and more and more and more. Okay, so does anybody have any questions or comments?
I just had a small comment. You were saying about the difference with Venkata and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when they were joking about, you are a goddess of fortune, and Radharani comparing the level of love and happiness. Prabhupada said, and we've heard it before, that really, on a grand scale, the only difference, Prabhupada said that Krishna is God at home and Vishnu is God in the office. Yeah. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
That's a nice, easy way. And when you say that, people get it. They get the difference.
God at home and God in the office.
Yeah. See, he got it.
Bala.
Yeah, it's... Yes.
Just this is the official way of saying the same thing. Narayan and Krishna are ontologically the same, but rasalogically very different. I just made that word up.
I was thinking, I never heard of rasa.
Rasalogically, all right. Thank you. Yes, Tyler?
I had two thoughts from the purport. The first one is this concept of Krishna says that his devotees are more dear to him than Brahma, Shiva, Saṅkarṣaṇa, the goddess of fortune, or even his own self.
Yeah.
And then it follows up with, it says, the Supreme Lord who can award liberation to anyone showed more mercy to the Gopis than to the Lord Brahma, Shiva, or even the goddess of fortune, who is his own wife and is associated with his body.
Yeah.
So this idea of devotees being more dear to Krishna than his own self.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Well, I was going to tell you that if you strictly practice Krishna consciousness for the next... If you strictly practice Krishna consciousness for the next couple decades, you're going to get some answers about this. Oh.
That's a good one for the Stampa Swami questions.
Well, it's... Krishna, of course, Mamai Vangsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Everyone's part and parcels of Krishna. So we're intimately connected to Krishna. And just as we cannot understand the love of a mother, we really can't understand. You may try to understand, you may be trying to intellectually understand the love of a mother, or you may even try to experience it somehow. I don't know, psych yourself up, and you want to become motherly towards the brahmacharis or something. But you really can't understand, actually. Once my god sister, Rose Forecast, she became, what was her name? Ranjani Priya. Her body was, aged, right? She was 90 plus, and she was still driving also. Apparently she was sharp, driving. And anyways, I remember I was with her and my spiritual master one time, and they were speaking together, and she was explaining to him her experience of trying to communicate the importance of Krishna consciousness to her parents. And her parents, well, first of all, Ranjani Priya, her daughter was a Prāpa disciple, Leela Shakti. So her parents were, anyways, a few generations back, but then she started trying to explain to her parents the beauty of Krishna consciousness, the experience of Krishna consciousness. And of course, how much can you explain? How much can you really, through words? And then she started to tell her parents, you have to go there. You have to step foot into the temple. You have to dance in the kirtan. You have to taste prasādaṁ. You have to associate with the devotees. And then you'll have an experience, a spiritual transcendental experience. And Srila Prabhupada would... Srila Prabhupada on different occasions he would like on one particular occasion, he was asking, well, why do you accept the validity of Krishna consciousness, or why do you accept Krishna consciousness to be truth? And then devotees were saying, well, it says in the Bhagavad Gita, and Prabhupada said no, and it kept on going. And then one devotee just spoke up, and he said, well, Srila Prabhupada, I just feel so happy, and I feel so ecstatic, and I'm really experiencing something different. Prabhupada said, yes. Prabhupada appreciated that answer. Vishya vinivartate nirahasadena rasovarjam rasopyasa param dushtva navartate, the higher taste. So it's difficult to understand the love that Krishna has. A crude example means not a perfect example. The love for a mother that they have for the children in this world, we can't understand because we don't have experience, right? But Krishna, so it's difficult to understand how much affection Krishna has for the living entities, despite them being just so offensive in so many ways, in so many lifetimes, in this lifetime. It's just unconditional. It's just unconditional affection. Like I brought up a number of times about this devotee. He was quite a troublesome person. In and out of jail, drugs, etc., etc. Most people would have given up on him long time ago, but his mother just kept on helping him, sending him money in jail, giving him, on and on and on and on. Eventually this person got better, actually. And he's initiated, and anyways. So, yeah, it's hard to understand, but it's based on just Krishna's unconditional affection for us. Anyways, that's something.
Thank you for that answer. You didn't just dismiss it shortly. That was very explained nicely. The last thing I had was the last sentence of the the first sentence of the last paragraph. The conclusion is that.
Because that's another question. I just thought of something quickly. An example of how Krishna shows his love even more than his own self, and it's from Prabhupada uses it, that Krishna's the unlimited enjoyer. He's Keshava with his beautiful hair. He's Gopeshwar. He's dancing with the gopis. He's so many things, and he gives all that up. He shaves his head, gives up his gopis, and comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the most merciful of all incarnations, all forms of God, just to save us. So on one hand, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna is always ātma-rāma and, self-satisfied. But Prabhupada gives the example that he's so merciful and so much cares about the devotees, he gives up his own comfort of his leela and comes as an austere sannyasi, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just to deliver the conditioned souls. I just wanted to
giving up himself, for us.
Gave up his own comfort to deliver us. That's Prabhupada's analogy.
Because the question being asked is why Lakshmi was not able to join the rasa dance, right? That was the big question trying to be asked here. So I think I found the answer, and I'm asking if that's it. Is it the conclusion is one cannot associate with Krishna unless he has fully received the favor of the inhabitants of Rajabhumi, or did they answer that question somewhere else?
Well, the thing is. She wasn't able to, relinquish her. It's different. She's in a different rasa. Although she had a desire, she's in a different mood with, as the wife of Lord Narayan. So this particular mood that the inhabitants of Vrindavan have is a very special mood, and it's not so easy to attain, and some people, again, you could say maybe in a pure sense, like that simple charcoal maker. He couldn't help himself. That was his understanding. That was his realization. That was his right. But in a pure sense, there's devotees of Krishna or devotees of Lord Narayan or Vishnu. They're just in different. They have different relationships with him. Just like in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela of Murari Gupta, Marigupta was a devotee in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, but he's very attached to Ramchandra. And all the Lord Chaitanya was telling him, oh, give up Ramchandra. He tried, but he couldn't. He was just, that was his worshipful Lord. I don't know, maybe somebody else has something.
Is Lakshmi still fully satisfied, even though she doesn't? Okay.
Yes. It's not.
We need to wrap up, but you could look in Chaitanya Charitamrita. We need to wrap up, but you could look in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Hera Panchami festival, when Lord Jagannath. It's a whole story, but it's the mood of the goddess of fortune coming and chastising Jagannath when he goes to the Gundicha temple, which is Vrindavan, and then she comes and assaults him and tries to bring him back, back to Dwarka with the opulence of Vaikuntha. And there's a whole, in there's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and a whole series of purports that describes the mood of the goddess of fortune, and she's relishing it. So her haughty arrogance, like Satyabhama. So it's not like she's missing out and losing and feels, well, I couldn't achieve. No. Just like Balaram saying, it's different moods, but it's nicely explained in that section of the CC.
Yeah, right after the Rath Yatra. Well, I think we should stop now, so I could answer the question writing it or something. Yeah, I know. I could answer it on writing or something. I don't want to hold everybody up. Okay, Granted Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai.
Ki jai. Oh, Govinda.